Hmm. We have people joining in.
Yes.
So do let me know when to start.
Yeah, sure. We have over 62 now. Hmm.
Suchita, broadcast is started now, and all the participants can hear you. So, if you may start, you can start.
Okay, sure, sir. Thank you, Avinash. Start?
Start, Sujita. We have 71.
Hello, everyone, all the dear participants. A very good evening to all, and this is Suchita here, and it's a very privilege to be a part of this webinar, and it gives me an immense pleasure to welcome you all to this NHRD webinar on the topic of Board Ready HR Leaders 2020. So I'll quickly let you know the technical aspects of this webinar. So this webinar is going to be in two parts. So the learning session will be of 45 minutes, initial 45 minutes, and the later 15 minutes will be for the Q&A session, that is question answer session. And we would like to hear from all of you and include your questions in the conversation. So ask questions, use the chat panel on the right side towards your GoToWebinar player, and share your thoughts during the webinar itself. And we can take that forward to the panelists, that is Ms. Joanna Mankad. And now I will please request our dear Vice President, Pune Chapter NHRD, Mr. Aman Rajabali, to give a brief introduction about Joanna ma'am. Sir, over to you.
Okay. Thank you, Sujita. Namaskar, everybody. Welcome, Adab, Sat Sri Akal. A very good afternoon. I'm sure that you guys are enjoying this lockdown as much as we are. We are doing a lot of activities in the Pune chapter, organizing a lot of learning sessions, online courses. जितना हो सके हम उतना अपने आप को व्यस्त रखते हैं ताकि खाली दिमाग के अंदर ऐसे वैसे ख्यालात ना आए. We are all positive and we are so happy that we have so many participants joining in on this afternoon. A very, very critical and a very important, pertinent topic that we have today, board ready HR leaders. How can HR professionals get into the board and be part of the decision making activities of an organization? So मेरे प्यारे भाई बंधुओं, मेरे प्यारे दोस्तों, लॉकडाउन के लिए एक दो शब्द मुझे याद आ रहे हैं, वो मैं बताना चाहूंगा, शेयर करूंगा. मंजर धुंधला हो सकता है, मंजिल नहीं. दौर बुरा हो सकता है, जिंदगी नहीं. So whatever we are going through, this is part of our life. It is absolutely okay. ये दौर भी गुजर जाएगा. We have a very beautiful life. Whatever we come across, we will pass through it. Now, it is my pleasure to briefly introduce you all to our very dynamic speaker today, Joanna Mankad, madam. Thank you so much for joining us today, taking out time. A little brief, ladies and gentlemen, about her. Joanna is a senior management professional, a passionate leader with first-class communication skills and a long track record of more than 22 years of successful governance experience in various industries like banking, logistics, IT, organizations like Credit Suisse, Merck, P&O, Lloyd. She is an exceptional C-suite executive, designs, develops, and implements strategies towards substantial growth and risk-free environment for global organization. और आज के माहौल में तो ये बहुत ही जरूरी है, risk-free environment, madam. As a key member of boards, Joanna has successfully driven and implemented global governance mechanisms across various regions. She holds a certificate of Board of Governance by the Institute of Directors and also a member of Indian Institute of Corporate Affairs. Joanna is also a certified lead assessor for data privacy by the Data Security Council of India and has deep-seated knowledge and understanding of KYC and data privacy policies. She understands regulatory requirements, designs internal disciplinary frameworks, policies, and processes for maintaining the reputation and reducing risk. Joanna is very well known for her integrity, strategic thinking, and solution oriented approach. She is recognized as an exceptional problem solver who reaches out to all the stakeholders. Madam, I, on behalf of the National HRD Network Pune chapter and National HRD, the main body based in Delhi, I take the privilege, the honor to welcome you on behalf of the Pune committee, our President Anand Khote, our Treasurer Dr. Niraj, Salil Malhotra, Suchita, Sheetal, all of us are so happy to have you here, and all the participants that we have. Currently, I am seeing that we have 101 and more people are joining us, so it's a pleasure to listen to you. Please take over, Ji. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you so much, Aman. Good evening, everyone. I would like to start this session by thanking the National HRD Network, specifically Anand, Aman yourself, the National and the Pune teams for giving me this opportunity. It is also heartening to have folks of the premier body in the country recognize an important and critical topic that needs to be discussed within the HR community at large. It is amazing to know that a large number of senior professionals have shown interest and have joined this webinar. I hope this session will ignite a few sparks and motivate some of you to tread this path. If this happens, I would consider my job well done. So, thank you once again. To take you through the presentation, what I have done is I have divided this talk into three broad areas. First and the foremost, the aspirations. Aspirations that have been or should have been seeded with each one of us of reaching the highest level of recognition for any professional is the boardroom. Aspiration backed by promising potential and its realization is the first step towards the coveted seat. Second, we talk about the perception about HR. Usually it is seen as support, advisory, working for the welfare of employees, not so good with numbers. This is an outdated notion given today's widespread use of analytics in HR departments. Let me take you back to your B school days when we learned about the famous Waters value chain that put HR as a secondary or a support activity. It is perhaps from this neoclassical economic days that the perception of HR as supporting still continues. However, this era of collaborative partnership-based economy, HR ceases to play a support role. It has become a strategic ally for the businesses. Perhaps as individuals, we need to reflect. Have we fallen into the trap of labeling ourselves as support and not asserting our strategic role? Think about it. The third that I want to discuss is preparedness. Aspirations and perceptions being taken care of, should we ask ourselves, are we prepared to join a board? If tomorrow someone invites you to join a board, would you be confident enough? Would you be willing to take up the challenge? Willing? Perhaps yes. How about capable? Are we ready? The other important question that I want to ask, do you believe that HR today plays a crucial role in building an organization and is helping in the growth and sustainability to its people and culture? Here I would like to ask, are organizations successful without talented people or a healthy corporate culture? What would your answer be? Today, yes, the boards are realizing that talking about strategy without people would be useless. Let us look at a few role models in the HR community who have successfully broken the barriers and assumed the board roles. Some eminent names in the industry: Dr. Santrup Mishra, director in several companies in the Aditya Birla Group, including the Aditya Birla Capital Limited and other professional bodies. He's an independent director on the board of the Oil and Natural Gas Corporation. We all know him. And he has proven himself that being an HR professional, you can still be on the board. The other name that comes across is Mr. R.K. Ramkumar. He was with the ICICI board. Dr. Prince Augustine, Mahindra Group, Mr. Pradeep Mukherjee, and one more name we all know, Hema Ravichandran. All these people have proven their mantle and taken those both seats. Also, let us now look at in the international scenario. There are many names that crop up, and from very eminent industries: American Express, AT&T, and recently, I don't know if you have heard about Kathleen Winslow Thomas. She has been appointed to the board of Tesla in the US. All these people give us a confidence that this is something that is achievable. It is not just an aspiration, but something that we all can work towards. I would like to take you through some research that has gone into this. So it's not something that it's a new topic, but has been discussed, researched. A lot of papers have been written on what is the combination of HR and the board. If you look at this graph, there was very, very, uh, sad case of people from the HR industry on the board. But there was a surge in that. If you look at 2014, it was the highest that HR professionals were appointed on the board seat. In US, the number of HR folks on board has seen a steady rise over the years. From 2005 to 2017, on this graph, the number of HR executives on the US public company boards almost tripled from 84 to record high of 243, according to executive compensation and corporate governance data analysis firm called Equila. Equilor compiled the data by reviewing both seats held by HR executives at companies in the Russell 3000 index, which represents approximately 98% of all US-based companies. Research attributes this growth to few factors. One is risk and compliance issues and a tight labor market as well could interest more companies to tapping HR executives for board roles. Second, law and audit. It's not easily mastered by non-practitioners. So that's something, again, which I think mostly organizations will start looking at, that whoever is an expertise in those fields should come on board. Strategic and business oriented are the key words for any professional to be on the board. Few skill sets required today as we talk about how HR leaders are framing themselves are business expertise, change engagement, organizational reengineering, cultural engagement, data analysis. These are a few that make a person capable. Let's see how today's HR leaders and how are we demonstrating this into a leadership role. When we looked at the India and the international scenario, we saw that there were a lot of people who did break the barriers and take the board seat. Why were these directors able to do that? Proactively work towards a board role? Yes. Overcame a perception of unconscious bias? Yes. Build HR image as a strategic function? Very important. Strategic then operational. I think that's also something that we need to understand as to how are we being strategic then operational. Before I move on to the other slide, or a let's pause for a moment and reflect. What do boards really look for? Do boards go beyond business and profits? Do they? Today, yes. Do we know that boards members look out for their prospective colleagues? Boards rely on certain inputs and key areas to run the organization. Would you agree with this? Workplace policies, hirings and layoffs, compensation, culture and well-being, grievances and whistleblowing, performance evaluation. These are some of the key areas that each board is definitely interested in. Do they get their insights directly from the organization or from the business? I don't think so. Boards typically haven't had great insights into what's happening in the organization, and especially on these fronts. This was revealed in a research at the University of South California for executive succession. Being on board, the HR expert is able to influence the board on issues that are critical to the organization. Perhaps because many boards don't have members who possess enough HR specific expertise to know what to request. For instance, an HR expert on the board is likely to ask pointed questions about the culture, a prime issue for the boards, or ask the significant corporate HR data. These questions, once you have some thought onto as to we are able to give that to the board. Why is it that we are not confident? We are. Winning places on boards is possible. Be a strategic partner to the board and the C-suite. Becoming more strategic at all levels. Help the organization to develop future leadership and deal more effectively with ongoing change. Learn to manage the change. Like it or not, friends, change is only constant in today's environment. So flexibility to handle is most critical. Think globally. Things will only get more challenging as business becomes more global and competitive. When are we talking about change? The current situation is a classic example of how we are looking at change coming and especially managing the people. We are looking at various means and ways to ensure that how are your workforce reacting? Are they okay? Are they comfortable? What is the productivity level? I think these are the questions that today each organization is interested to know. What will happen when they're coming back? I think most of the HR is interested today and is probably working towards ensuring that they are managing the entire workforce. You are probably the custodians, as I look at it, that we HR people are custodians of that human uh, asset within the organization. And that's true. And if that is true, then what is stopping us? Keeping a top down, bottom up view of your organization. I think every HR person or only an HR person is the one function that has the entire 360-degree view of the organization. You talk about senior people, you talk about the interns. I think every single person is known by the HR. From their time of joining, they are there. It's quite important to know that HR is the only function, and I would look at it as the backbone of the organization.
Joanna, sorry to interrupt you, but can you speak a little louder? I think many of the participants are unable to hear clearly, or perhaps you can use the headphone or so. Thank you.
Am I audible now? Better?
Yes, Joanna ma'am, it's better.
All right. Okay. So I was saying that each HR professional or each HR function in an organization, from my point of view, is the backbone of the organization. Without people being your asset, as what we talked about earlier, if people are your assets, how can you ignore them? How can you ignore HR? And that is what we talk about, that having a global view or 360-degree view of the organization helps HR professionals. Let's look at another point. Effectively manage payroll, critical task for the board. Payroll is probably the biggest chunk of the budgeting that happens in an organization. If that is true, then again, we are, as an HR function, most critical to the organization. Gain a comprehensive knowledge of the rules. I think we are aware and know about the roles starting from, as I said, from internals to the senior management. Each role is known to us, each business. Roles here, I think one more important factor that we should keep in mind is about the business knowledge. So roles of, when we talk about the layer of the organization, that's good. But then each of the business brings a very specific requirement on the board. And that's where HR comes into picture, where they have to be able to give that understanding that they are aware about each business roles and requirements. And if that is there, I think you have already crossed or there on the bridge, right? We are also talking about being aware, gain understanding of the rules and regulations that adhere to the, like, for example, the Companies Act. How many of us are really into understanding what governs the organization from the external perspective? We are very well versed with what's happening within the organization. So all the top points that we talked about, whether it is uh, the top-down, bottom-up view of the organization, whether it is the budgets that we're looking at, whether it is the knowledge of the roles. But do we have also an understanding of the rules and regulations that are there in the environment that we need to be aware about? There are, right? Abreast of the latest government legislation, be the labor or the company related. Either ways, one needs to be very sure of what's happening. You should have a comprehensive understanding of all the rules and regulations that company must adhere to. HR, most likely, probably you will draft policies around them, because each of these rules and regulations require some adherence within the organization. And for that, it is HR who would need to pen it down for the organization that what requires to be done. What is that adherence from the management or the employees that will ensure that you are being compliant with those rules and regulations. The another very important part is, which usually we tend to not take it very seriously, is succession planning. I have always seen that succession planning comes as always a secondary priority, post a lot of other issues. But I think it's one of the most important ones. Succession planning for whatever role, seniors, middle level suits, or the junior. It is important that we ensure that there is succession planning across the levels. The last one I will not really touch upon because that HR does really well. In each of the organizations I have seen that HR really ensures that the employee, the staff are taken care of. So that being said, answering directly to the CEO, if you are there, if you are sitting with them day in and day out, if you are talking to them, what better place are you in? You're already there, right? So let's see what is that bridge that you need to cross. All the points that we discussed in the previous slide are probably getting added up in this slide as well. Repeating, but it's good to know. Establish good reputation with the compensation committee. Put HR updates in broader context, that is using analytics. I think here one of the bigger questions today usually that HR is awakening to is how to use data. And myself have witnessed that, in fact, NHRDNs are also looking at giving or upskilling HR professionals on this particular aspect. I think it's very important these days that upskill yourself to use the data to your advantage, to your benefit. because that will help you in giving a correct picture to the board. And when we are talking about a correct picture, is giving them not only the data but a solution, because that's the track that we are looking at. Be a solution provider rather than only an advisor. Emphasis on how you can be a good coach. Well, nobody can deny an HR professional not being a good coach. They are the best trainers. They know how to talk to people. They know the pulse of the organization. They know the pulse of each individual or employee in the organization. If that's true, and you are always working with the senior most people in the organization directly, then the board is not very far. So all these aspects that we have discussed, we talked about a good relationship, making HR more data driven, making use of your knowledge of trainings, networking, relationship building. These are a couple of things that each board would definitely be interested in to see as to who can give them those aspects. You know, when I'm talking about these things, let's see, unlocking the traits and gaining the knowledge is the start. And realization, the board track, I think, starts with the fact that the first step, the fact that you're attending this program, the fact that you're interested in this topic is realization. And if realization is there, you have already taken the first step. If you have taken the first step, let's not stop. The second is introspection. Boards look for two major traits to get people on board with them. One is capabilities, and the second one is character or attitude. You call it anyways. Capabilities are what? Special skills, expertise, knowledge and networking capabilities. Some of them we spoke about earlier, right? And character. We are all of good character. We all know that, but what is it that the board wants to see? How good a judge of people you are. Asking pointed questions, being straightforward, collaborating. How collaborative are you with the business, with other stakeholders? Trustworthiness, and one most important one is EQ, the emotional quotient. I think these are two very important factors that each HR should keep in mind. Are you capable? Do you have those capabilities? And do you have the character? To help you with this major skills, there are again three things that probably will help you build them. Know your business inside out. Very important. Avoid HR speak. What do I mean by that? The jargons. I think we need to make it more generic and acceptable to what we would like to convey. The message that is conveyed should be very, very crystal clear. And I think, as I said earlier, being solution oriented. If you are driving towards this couple of things, you will be able to build your capabilities and character around it. So one is Are we ready? Yes, the aspiration is there. What are we talking about? The perceptions. We know how HR is perceived today, and what is it that we need to change? What is it that we are looking at changing? Mostly, if you see, HR has been looked upon, as we discussed, as support, but mostly as a transactional operation, basically in doing operations. Very, very transactional in nature. But from there to getting on to being strategic is a shift that we need to take. That how do we transform ourselves from being transactional to being strategic? That's the key question. We need to probably also look at going back to one more slide. Let me just take you back to here. The things that HR is looking at is probably that we are able to get on board. Why are these things so very important? Proactive, perception, strategic function. What is it that, how do you cross that barrier of being transactional to strategic? I think that's a very important question. That when you're talking about, everyone feels that, yes, I'm being strategic, but then are you really? And that's where the question comes in as to what is being perceived. Perception matters. You are being perceived today as looking at the entire workforce, but making that transition, and that's where I think this is where we are going to talk about again, how you are going to engage with the direct, the seniors, the C-suite, to be able to give them that knowledge that its HR function is not just transactional, it is a strategic function as well. These are a couple of things that I would like to put together for you to think about when I'm talking about thoughts to ponder. It's something that you may want to take down as the next steps. When we're talking about getting ready for the board, how prepared are we? If I were to ask a question today, how many of you are aware, abreast with the Companies Act requirement? What is it? How does the board function? How many meetings do they have in a year? What is the requirement? Where do the meetings go? Who files them? Where are they going? There are lots of questions. If those are something that we are aware about, those are the questions that we are prepared to learn. That's again your starting point. If you are ready, because that's something, that's probably another day's question as to what are the Companies Act requirements. That's a different topic altogether. But have we started? Have we started looking at what does the board do? Because that's a shift that you will have to take. Today we are partners. We are strategic partners to the board, to the C-suite. But gaining the knowledge of the operations of how the board runs is very, very critical. So if you want to start, I think this is where the first thing comes in. Self-help. Are we prepared to learn? We need to pick that strand where we left. We are so busy in our day-to-day BAUs, as we call that. We hardly ever really think about going back to learning. But if we do, I think this is where we need to start. If we want to be on the board, we need to start taking up the learning. The second question that comes to my mind is value. Have you ever really given a thought? Why would a board want you? What value do you bring? If you were planning to have a meeting with somebody or going to take them on your team, you really think that you would want to think about what is this person going to bring on the table for me? How is this person going to benefit me? What is it that this person is going to deliver? If these are the questions that you tend to ask when you are inviting somebody on your table, I think the same goes for us as well. If we want to be on the board is going to ask, what value do you bring to the table? Are we prepared to answer that question? It's a very, very important question that you ask as to what kind of value. Maybe you are an expert in something, maybe you are an expert in compensation, maybe you are an expert in development and learning, but we need to be, as board members, need to be a all-rounder. As HR, I'm sure everyone of you are well versed with the Ulrich model of the 4 different characteristics of or specializations of HR: strategic, partner, and compensation, benefits, person, cultural, and do we really want to box ourselves? Because I think that is one question that many researchers are pondering upon today. That is Ulrich's model theory still relevant? Do we box HR still into this criteria? I don't think so. Today we are more prepared to give a complete suit rather than a specialization. So that is the value that you bring, that you are not only a specialization into one particular field as per the Ulrich model, but you are a culmination of all those specializations, right? The third question that I want to probably put across is the most important one: transition from being an advisor to a decision maker. Did you ever think about that? We usually talk about the fact that we know everything, and we do, but there's a large difference between being an advisor and to a decision maker. This transition is what takes you from this side of the bridge to the other side, and we all want to cross that bridge, don't we? And if you want to cross that bridge, I think it's very, very important that we start realizing that there is a huge difference between being an advisor and a decision maker. The board is made responsible, accountable of the decisions that you take. Today, we tend to take decisions, but are more from the advisory perspective. We tend to tell, give, provide details, advisory, data, and leave it for somebody else to take the decision. If that's true, We need to come out of that mental state and start looking at ourselves as decision makers. When I say you have to become somebody who asks pointed questions, that's where it is, because that's where people will start recognizing that you are not just a support, you're just not an advisory, but you're involved. You're involved in the growth and the sustainability of the organization. You are asking the questions, you are making sure that you're able to think about what the organization needs are. This transition is the biggest transition that you will see when a person from a C-suite or a leader becomes a board member. There are a couple of quotes that come to my mind. Boards are going to be more accountable, says Johnny Taylor, CEO. He's from the Society of Human Resource Management. And he says we are in this knowledge-based economy. So you just can't dismiss it. You can't just replace talent. That's true, right? You can't. Being into a knowledge-based industry today, it is so important for HR professionals to start becoming accountable, and the fact that the transition from being where you are to the boardroom is of a journey from advisory to being accountable. Are we prepared for that? I think these are a few things that really are important for each and every HR professional to think about. Probably something that through strategic partnership from any perspective will remain on the top among the rest. But the aspiration to get on the other side of the bridge is to becoming more strategic than transactional. We have been executing, we have been looking at implementation, but I think it's time that we start looking at a more broader picture. Even the Companies Act talks about directors being made responsible for the decisions that they make. There are in fact fines and penalties, and more so even jail terms for criminal offenses if found guilty. It's that much of a power that the board has, but equally then there is so much of responsibility and accountability towards them for what they do. You must have seen so many board failures coming around. There are so many organizations that have failed. What have we ever gone back and realized as to what went wrong? Why are these boards not performing or have not been able to perform? What went wrong there? And that's some of the things that will help you wonder. If you look at Miss Hema's story, if you go back to looking at her as a role model, or you can pick up any of those names that we have looked at, go through their journey. What are the things that they have done right? What steps did they take? How did they progress? Some of the things that they have done during their entire career journey, that will help us. That will really help us understand as to what is it that took them from this side of the bridge to the other side. And those are our learnings. So the first, as I said, the fact that we are here today and the fact that we have realized that there is potential in me, there is a potential that can be shaped, because boardroom is the ultimate place that one wants to be. So let's start working towards it. Before I close this talk, I hope I have been able to give you a fair appreciation of what it takes to be on the board and how can we get there. I would like to close this again with a thanks to NHRDNs to bring this topic up, which is so very relevant and important these days. Believe me, it takes time to get board ready, and the deliberate efforts to switch your mindset from being a functional expert to an advisor coach. It takes time, but it's not impossible. So, Anand, Aman, once again, thank you for inviting me. I hope that this session would be useful for people who have joined, and the next steps as they would want to take would be towards being on the board. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Joanna. I think this was a good session. Yeah. Aman, you were.
Do we have any questions, Niraj, you'd like to ask?
Yes. I will. I thought you were, trying to say something, but yes, we have. I think in between in the talk, there was a lot of talk going around, and I saw some of you very excited. Few great questions have come up. Let me try and do justice to many of these. Joanna, can you stop sharing your screen, please? Thank you. Thank you.
Is this all right?
Yeah. So yes. Right. Before we do the Q&A, something I don't know. Aman, is this visible on the screen?
Yes, it is, Niraj.
Yeah. Okay. So this is a bit about the NGO effort that NHRDN is making, and you can read these slides while the Q&A session is on. So moving back to you, Joanna, I think a lot of things over the chat. There has been a lot of questions that have come up, and I'm going to be try to take a look at these questions, and because of the fair amount of numbers, I'll try and bring about what is very common between some of them. So all of you have asked, thank you for those questions. One important question I thought, Joanna, that has come up is from Vidhu Sharma. I don't know whether Vidhu is still here on the call or not, but he asked a very important question in terms of how is it that me as an individual, you talked about how you become a partner to the board, and you make yourself the capability bit that you spoke about. But his point is that there are other executives within the organization who either come from different functions. Why would a board member select somebody from my function rather than the other functions? So if you could, sort of throw a light here. I'll just pause here, Joanna, and let you take a shot at the question.
Sure. At think very relevant question, and thanks for putting that across, because I'm sure many of the others would also like to know as to why would the HR person be selected, and that's the question, right? Because why not? Why not an HR person? We displayed a list of things that the board looks at. We looked at compensation, payrolls, hiring, layoffs. These are so many aspects that board is always interested in, and especially in today's environment, when you look at going on. Why do you think that Tesla suddenly appointed Kathleen? The whole purpose was to address the labor market, the tight labor market that they are operating in. There are so many issues from the human perspective that are cropping up these days, which the board is definitely looking at experts to give them advice on. And there was, in fact, a research done in the UK, Birkbeck University. A paper has been written wherein they have very clearly mentioned that there as well, people, there was hardly about 2%, 3% of HR on board. And
All right.
now it is building up, right? So there is the recognition that's coming in.
Right. So there is, let me also take a very related question that has come from Shweta. Shweta is with a construction company, and what she's trying to understand is that, I being an HR have no expertise in the construction, not being trained as an engineer or and so on. And why would the board want to look at me? Answers, any answers on that, Joanna?
I
So
think
if
both,
we also have maybe having a lot of people from other areas who might face similar challenges in their organizations.
I think you being an expert, there are certain areas nobody else would. Business, I think, is one area that board always has relied upon. But then, as I said, the human aspect of it, the emotional quotients of the organization, if people are your biggest assets in the organization, then you are
Right.
the, then you definitely are a person to be on the board seat,
So,
because as an influence,
and,
you can influence a lot of things.
right. So any tips for us HR folks like that who are not in similar situations? What should one do?
I think the start point is the discreet marketing about your capabilities as to what,
Okay.
how capable you are. That needs to be marketed in some way or the other. You
All
could do
right.
it through networking, you could do it through providing, as I said, look into becoming more data oriented. Once you do that, the recognition will come.
Right. I think Dharmesh Mishra also asked a very similar question that you answered on marketing. That is it important to look at the PR and a branding team to get a corporate seat? But I'll come back to another question that I think quite relevant, and I'm sure many of the participants may have had that but not spoken about this, is by Mr. Mukherjee, who asks that normally corporate boards are very profit focused. They are interested in business, and they are interested in increasing shareholder value. But how do we reconcile the human element into these boards? Is do you in your experience in with corporate boards, do you get a change in that perspective? What do you want to comment on?
In my experience, is that HR, in fact, has, because their expertise, their knowledge about the human factor, they have moved on to businesses and they have made excellent CEOs. They have been looked upon as who can actually run an organization. For example, Dr. Santru Mishra, if you look at him, not only just HR, you become more than that and provide the organization. So it's not about just being an HR professional who, as I said, the perception, I think you're fighting with the perception again that we are looked upon as service providers or support functions, or I think we need to come out of that.
So I think his question was more towards the fact that are boards in India willing to move beyond profits is what I think he's trying to ask, and therefore, would we be looked at?
Yeah, they are definitely, because these aspects are more important now. Profits is definitely which I think both CEOs of the organizations are being looked upon to come and serve the board. That is being taken care of, because there is, as I said, the audit committees. There are a lot of SOX, especially after SOX in the UK. There was seen a lot of changes coming about. And if the boards realize,
I think
that's where realization will fall.
And Joanna, if you could throw some light on this audit committee, there was a question also that was asked that do we have any compensation committees in Indian boards, and is that required?
Yes. So if you look at it's available online. The data is there. Marico Industries of, again I go back to HEMA. The committees that are there which are attached to the board. Definitely, compensation committee is one of the committees that is attached to the board. So if you are feeding in, you are being a committee which is attached to the board, it is today, as I said, you are an advisor, you are providing the data, but becoming more strategic and influencing the board is what we are looking at. Getting on the seat is more important today.
Okay, right. I think there were a couple of more questions on this, very similar to what you said. But I found one question quite interesting, which has just come up from Vaishnavi, and she says that ma'am, how would you differentiate? Let me read the question. It will be better if I do that. How will the leadership from an HR be different from a more business-oriented leadership? And she refers to the current situation, pandemic that we are in. Considering that if there is an HR representative on the board of a company.
Definitely is my answer is definitely yes, because it will make a difference having an HR person on the board, and especially now that we always tend to think this can't happen. Human resource, why would we really look at human resource as the most important one? Will it really impact us so much? And here it is. As I said during my talk, that while we are talking about HR being important function, it is the most important right now, because people, their most biggest assets are we need to be looked at. People are working from home. One is today's scenario, and the other one is when they come back to work. Both scenarios are going to be equally important for any organization to address right now. To lose people right now would not be something that they would want, and definitely low morals of the people, their productivity going down, is something definitely that organizations don't want to. So HR is the one who would look at this to address those issues.
Right. The other question that very interestingly, I think Mahesh Jha has asked is, and then I would tend to go with him on that, is that we've been talking about how HR changes their mindset for boards, right? He's flipping it, that how do you change the mindset of the board to have HR in them, right? Which I think is quite an interesting, and I certainly would like if you could just throw your thoughts on that.
It is definitely a notorious question, I would say.
Yeah, I thought so, but I think it's important here because we've been talking with we've got close to about 120 odd HR folks on the call today, and I'm sure many of them would be aspiring and would want to go ahead. But are we really seeing this kind of a mindset change in the board itself? Because unless that,
We don't have the statistics to talk about right now in India, but there are these leaders which I would look at as who have broken the barriers, and they have made an impact. They have made a difference. They have made certain difference in the working of the organization. If you look at uh, the actual shift of the organizations when the HR person was on the board, and those organizations where HR is not on the board, you will see the difference. That the certain elements of organization towards the um, human capital that they have changes. The cultural shift that the organizations have taken would shift. Now, that realization, how does the board get it? It is up to you again. Because how much are you able to portray your capabilities in ensuring that the organization takes a shift will be recognized by the because the board is looking up to you today. And if they see that potential, the promising potential that you bring forth, I think it's not too far that the boards won't realize that HR is required.
I think there was Vidu is also asking another important question, and I don't know. See, my experience on it boards is limited, but his question is about do you have a performance management system for a board up in place? Uh, can board of directors be evaluated? I know some of the answers are fairly sort of open here, but what would your views be on that?
So there may or may not be a direct evaluating system in place, but there are these audit committees, the external audit committees that evaluate the board. The MCA looks very closely at the boards as to what are they doing. So, and I said that how much are we aware about the functioning of the board? These are the questions. That who is looking at the board? The MCA. If you look at it, they are closely monitoring the boards. So they have that accountability.
Right, Joanna, we've got another 5-6 minutes left. A few questions have come which I'm sort of bringing together because they all fall under the same category. Most of them want to know that apart from the mindset, what kind of courses or what kind of learnings or what is it that they could do, in order to become more aware of uh, what happens at the board level.
Sure. In fact, why I think 2020 is because we have now the IICA coming up with the independent directors course, right? They have something for each director who's aspiring to be a board member. If you are really interested, I would think that that course is most relevant today. You should go and attempt that, pass that examination, because that will also give you a certification that you are well versed with all the topics that the boards are looking at. So
Right.
I think that there is a lot of awareness, and the government has made it mandatory for a lot of things like having an independent director, women director on board. Have a look at it. That will definitely open those doors for you.
So, any other courses by any other are given apart from the IOB? Is what one of the questions come, but I think you
There are
mentioned about these courses. Yeah.
many institutes that give courses relevant to the topics for the board. For example, accounting,
Right.
the basic accounting, the cultural shift, CSR aspect of the board, uh, the, the HR aspect of the board, the Companies Act learnings. So these are all compiled and built into a course. And there are quite a few in the market that you will find within this. But my best take is still the IICA examination.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm just going through whether I've missed any critical questions here. Yes. There's one important point I think again somebody has talked about is do we need to create a network in order to get on the board?
Very important. I was going through a lot of research and studies on how, and if you are really interested in getting on the board, what is it that one needs to do? Networking is a very cliche word these days, but there are a lot of aspects into being there at the right time, at the right place, giving that
Right.
information to the relevant people, being proactive. These are a couple of things that one definitely needs to be aware about. Being close to the CEOs is one aspect. So when you are close to the CEOs, it's not your organization's board. The CEO is definitely in touch with other CEOs of the organization, other organizations who are looking for people, independent directors. Maybe when your aspirations are discreetly marketed to the CEOs or the likes of them, it reaches the audience that yes, you are interested, but it needs to be definitely be tabled.
Okay. Right. I think we are almost reaching the closing time. So, Joanna, on behalf of National HRD Network, Pune chapter, and our colleagues at the national level, and on behalf of all of us who have attended this presentation, very warm thank you from and as Aman would say, dil se shukriya. Aman, are you there?
Yes,
Could
जी हूँ मैं.
you? I think all of us would want you to, your signature shukriya is something that we cannot do without.
अरे नहीं बढ़िया, बहुत दिल से शुक्रिया जैसे नीरज ने कहा, तो बहुत ही अच्छा था जो है ना, and very nice, and we've been looking at the amazing questions people have asked and so pertinent. So people have been, and this is, as you mentioned Joanna earlier, that this is a very relevant topic, and we are glad that in this time we were able to match your schedule and our timelines and were able to have this webinar. So सभी की तरफ से thank you so much, and to all the audience that we still have, नीरज सर ने जो screen डाली है, we will be having this webinar very soon on organ donation awareness, and it is very important, and I request all of you that if you can attend, this will help us a lot. This is life-changing session that we are going to have. So Joanna ji, thank you so much. आपने अपना वक्त निकाला, हमारे साथ में इतनी बातें शेयर की. फिर मिलेंगे, and we hope that you will continue the support. Ji Neeraj.
Thank you, Joanna, and to all our participants, NHRDN will also make this video available on our YouTube channel. So please come ahead and take a look at it. You could, if you liked it, ask people to go there and take a look at the video. I think somebody on the chat also asked for presentations. You will get it on the video, which is there on the YouTube channel of NHRDN Pune. So a very good evening to all of you. Please stay safe, stay at home, and good luck. Namaste. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you.